Little Woman, Chapter 3. The Girls Carry On. How hard it is to be a pilgrim, said Meg. The week of parties and free time was over. They didn't feel like going back to work. I wish it could be Christmas and New Year all the time, said Joe. Wouldn't it be fun? Oh, yes, exclaimed Meg. I love little suppers and going to parties and reading and resting, and not going to work. I'm so fond of luxury. Well, we can't have a life of luxury, said Joe. So stop grumbling. We must carry our loads as cheerfully as Marmee does. Sometimes I find Aunt March hard to bear, but if I carried her without complaining, she would seem lighter. The thought made Joe cheerful, but not Meg. She hated being poor. She remembered when her family had money. Now she took care of the children of a rich family. Every day she saw how easy their life was. I'll never have any fun, said Meg. I'll have to moil and toil all my days. I will only have little bits of fun. Now and then I'll get old and ugly and sore, and all because I'm poor. Everyone was unhappy that morning. Beth was lying on the sofa with a headache. She was playing with the cat and its 3 kittens. Amy was upset. She hadn't done her homework, and now she couldn't find her boots. There never was such a crabby family, cried Joe, spilling a bottle of ink on the table. And you're the crabbiest person in it, exclaimed Amy. Beth, if you don't keep your awful cats down in the cellar, I'll have someone drown them, said Meg. One of Beth's kittens had jumped on Meg's back and stuck in its claws. Mrs. Marsh was writing a letter that had to be mailed that day. She kept making mistakes. Girls, do be quiet for 1 minute, said Mrs. Marsh. I have to get this letter off by the early mail. I can't think with all this noise. Meg and Joe each grabbed a hot breakfast bun. They said goodbye to their mother and their sisters. Cuddle your cats and get over your headache, Bethy, said Joe. Goodbye, Marmee. When Mr. March had lost his money, Aunt March had asked to adopt one of the girls, but the family had refused. We wouldn't give up one of our girls for $1,000,000. Rich or poor, we will stay together. We are happy with one another. The 2 older girls were glad to help the family by working. Meg took care of the King children. Joe was Aunt March's companion. Aunt March was cranky and hard to please. The best part of the job was Aunt March's large library. Every day Joe read to Aunt March. The old woman always fell asleep. Then Joe would read what she wanted to read until her aunt woke up. Beth stayed at home and helped keep the house neat. Her shyness made school painful. So Beth used to do her lessons at home with Father. Now that Father was gone, Beth did her lessons on her own. Beth loved music. The keys on the family's old piano were yellow with age. Sometimes the notes sounded sour, but Beth wanted them to sound sweet. She worked and worked. If only there was money for music lessons. If only the family could afford a better piano. 12-year-old Amy went to school. She had many friends and was able to please without trying. Her love for drawing often got her into trouble. Sometimes the teacher caught her drawing instead of doing her work. Has anybody anything to tell Has anybody anything to tell? Asked Meg. It was the end of the day. The girls were sewing together. I'm dying for some amusement. I saw something this morning that I forgot to tell at dinner, said Beth. Everyone stopped sewing to listen. Mr. Lawrence was in the fish shop this morning, said Beth. He didn't see me because I was hiding a barrel. Because I was hiding behind the barrel. A poor woman came in with a pail and mop. She asked Mr. Cutter, the fishman, if he'd let her do some scrubbing for a bit of fish to feed her children. Mr. Cutter was in a hurry and said no. Then guess what Mr. Lawrence did? And he hooked up a huge fish with his can and held it out to the woman. Go along and cook it, he said. The woman hurried out of the shop, holding the slippery fish in her arms. She looked so happy. Wasn't that good for Mr. Lawrence? The girls loved Beth's story. Then they asked Mother for a story. I was making jackets for the men today, said Mother, and I started to worry about Father. I worried about what he would do if he didn't come home from the war. What would we do if he didn't come home from the war? Then an old man told me he had 4 sons in the army. 2 are dead. 1 is in prison, and 1 is sick in Washington hospital. I said to the old man, you have done a great deal for your country. Not all, he said to me. I'd go myself if I could, but as I can't, I give my sons freely. Mother looked at her hands. The old man was happy to give his all. I was ashamed of myself. I've given only 1 man. He has given 4. His last 2 sons are miles away. My 4 girls are at home to comfort me. I felt so rich and happy thinking of my blessings. The girls were ashamed. They had complained so much that day. Life had seemed so hard. They had forgotten how blessed they were to have one another. We need that lesson, Marmee said, and we won't forget it, said Joe.